Hello. So today we'll be talking about the Hartford Nationals and what that is, especially for Raphael as he goes through his Paralympic journey. And so the Hartford Nationals is a sports competition championship where people with disabilities, physical disabilities, visual impairments, and intellectual disabilities all come together across the United States to participate in different sports events and get classified and compete against each other. These nationals are the big ticket winners for the Paralympics eventually, for trials in Paralympics. Right? Recruiters watch the Hartford Nationals and sees who's the best pick for the next round, and they choose them and then they invite them to go to trials to compete. But the Hartford Nationals had about 435 people attended. These people, like I said, with all a variety of different disabilities, visual, physical, intellectual, whatever, it comes here. These competitions, they range from track and field all the way to archery. And in Raphael's case, they go to Paratriathlons. Now, for different sports choices, you have to be classified, right? For track and field, there's classifications to make sure that you're lined up with people who have a similar disability as you, so it's as fair as possible. And in this case, though, for the triathlons, there wasn't really any classifications, at least at this level. Eventually, if Raphael does decide to keep going on into his Paralympic journey, he'll go on and do the Paralympics, and over there they'll have classifications that he'll be categorized into something that is very similar with other people with similar disabilities. So, because he's a bilateral amputee, lower leg amputee, he's going to be classified as such. And with people who have a similar disability, to make it as fair as possible. But in this case, for the Hartford Nationals, even it being so big, they weren't too worried about classifications because it happens annually, right? It's an annual event. But in the case for Raphael at the Nationals, he was only categorized. There was only two categories. There was ambulatory, and then there was non-ambulatory, or wheelchair athletes, right? And so it doesn't really go down into much more details about that, but if you're able to move and stand unassisted, then you'll be in the ambulatory category. So he did a triathlon. For anyone who doesn't know what a triathlon is, it is a swim, a bike, and a run. Now, the distances, they vary depending on youth, which Raphael was from 11 to 15, and Junior was from 15 to 19, and 19 was then adults were 19 to whatever. And they have different ranges. But in this case, in his youth range, he only had to do a 3-mile bike, half a mile run in total for the triathlon. He did the swim portion, and so we were really worried about the swim portion because it was in open water, which Raphael has never done. He's swam a whole bunch, but he's never done open water swimming. But he did really well. Specifically for the triathlon, whenever my family are watching, we know that he's slow on the swim, and then he has to go into a transition where he puts on his prosthetics, dries off, gets all set up, and then he goes and runs to the bike, and that is where he usually picks up. Because on the bike, he flies on the bike. Even if it's a 3-mile bike, he will fly on the bike. However, at Nationals, it was a little bit more difficult this time because the bike, there was a hill, and so we had to get over the hill, and it took a little bit longer than usual. The run was nice, it was a nice breeze, and then he came back, and at the end of it all, we came in at 35 minutes. which was really, really good for Raphael. He also got third place. But just one little tidbit about the ambulatory, which I wanted to share. In this case, in the Nationals case, because they're ranking as ambulatory, that means that other people who don't necessarily have a similar disability as he does, to make it as fair as possible, well, they're also ranked as ambulatory. He still had a phenomenal time at Nationals. He did great. And so because of Nationals, he was able to he was invited to the Youth and Junior USA Triathlons, and there's a Paratriathlon portion of that. Significantly less people with disabilities there because there wasn't an event dedicated to this. So it was the actual Youth and Junior USA Triathlons, and he went to that. And I'll talk about that in a later video. I'll also talk about how he even got invited to Hartford Nationals in the first place. But I want to make a video dedicated to Hartford Nationals because it is the first stepping stone into his Paralympic journey, where he'll eventually go. If he goes down that path, if he wants to go down that path, and this is the first big. What to expect though, as we kind of wait for all these other things to come in, is that he will next year probably go to another Hartford National event. He will compete in that event, hopefully do better, and he'll continue this for a couple of years until he's old enough to then eventually go into junior Paralympic flying. Opening the door for recruiters to look at him, see his advantages, disadvantages, where he is going in his life. So please stay tuned, have fun, see Raphael become a superstar.